Hey guys, it's Logan here with Hydra 572. Today we're doing another beginner knife knowledge. This one is going to be how slip joints work. Now it feels a little bit backwards to say that slip joints work like multi-tools and Swiss Army knives do, because I would hazard a guess that slip joints have been around for a long time before either of those two things. But if you're like me, you might live in an area where you're allowed to carry all sorts of locking knives, and slip joints sort of seem antiquated and old. They are a cool style choice, and they can perform in most EDC situations, but for EDC use they don't have a clip, so like most things it's a mixed bag. Still, I think it's pretty cool whenever I see somebody pull out a slip joint, and today we're going to talk about how that locking mechanism works. Like I said, you might be more familiar with it as the locking mechanism on your Swiss Army knives. I'll take this one out right now because it's a terrible example. You can't see any of the locking mechanisms work, but it's also the same one that you would see on a non-locking multi-tool. So here's the basic premise of how it works, and then I'll show you guys some examples with those three items that we had there. We have, and I am just a terrible artist, but here we have our blade. Start with a little clip point, and like that. Then when we get down to this section, the blade stops there. There's no more sharpened portion. And we have a little flat section here, and a flat section here. And between those is a curved portion. Now, when the knife is open in this space right here, obviously it would be touching, but I'll draw it a little bit further off, we have a piece of metal with tension that is pushing in this direction that prevents the knife from closing on your hand. Just this piece of metal pushing into that flat portion, that's all that's keeping the knife open. That's why these knives count as a non-locking knife. In countries where you have to carry a non-locking knife, you're allowed to carry these. Now, that back piece of metal that you see is right there. This knife has two of them for its two blades. Now, as you can imagine, with this back piece always pushing that way, it is pinned in the handle. You have to displace it a little bit when you open the blade. When it's closed, it's pushing against this flat section because the blade is rotated down. And as you open it, as you can see, that back piece starts to displace. As you continue to open it, it is still displaced, and then once it's all the way open, it sinks into place, pushing against that flat. And that's all that's keeping the knife from closing on your hand. So it's very important that when you're using slip joints, you're only applying positive force, you're only pushing forward with the cutting edge. I would say not to do many penetration cuts, because when you penetrate, it's easy to get negative force and close the blade. And certainly you wouldn't want to be holding it and doing any prying like that. You could get it to fold up on your hand and have a pretty serious injury. So now I'll show you a couple of the knives working, and you can sort of observe that back piece moving. Like I said, it is sunk in against a flat right now, holding the knife closed so it doesn't open in your pocket, which probably wouldn't happen anyway with this knife. It is pretty tight, though I have seen some loose examples. Now the piece is displaced. It is pushing against that curved portion, and when it is all the way open, it is pushing in there, and now it takes a little bit of force to dislodge that, and this is a pretty tight example. This is a Boker tree band Arbolito. Show you the same thing with my little Leatherman style CS. Now with this tool, this piece here is standing in for that back piece. That's just a piece of the frame, but it does effectively the same thing. You can see it bends up out of the way once we enter into that curved portion, and you can see the curved portion a little bit better with this tool. So it is on the curved portion now. The curved portion is displacing that little back part, and there it just sank in all the way. So that is a little bit looser of a slip joint, a little bit easier to open and manipulate. And here's my little Blue Ridge Parkway little knockoff tool, Swiss Army knife tool. And I will go ahead and open the blade. You can see that back piece displacing and coming down closed. So that is basically how a slip joint knife or multi-tool or Swiss Army knife locking mechanism works. Very simple, very traditional. Lots of case knives use these, all Victorinox knives. They've got a couple with locking main blades, but for the most part your tools are going to be on a slip joint. And the same thing goes for a lot of Leathermans, though Leatherman is moving more towards locking tools, which honestly I like on a more heavy-duty tool. So yeah, there you go. Slip joint locks. Great little locks if you prefer a more traditional style, or if unfortunately you live in a country where your rights aren't as protected as they are here. If you do have to carry a non-locking knife, this is pretty much your best and only option. So there you go. That is how slip joint knives work. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope it has been a little bit informational. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.